If you want to understand Vietnam, do not begin with a monument, begin with a crossing. On the map, Vietnam stands out as a long, narrow country stretching nearly 650 kilometers from north to south. It is deep, dropping far below the surface in a way that is immediately visible, with the descent clearly etched into the surrounding landscape. Understanding Vietnam requires following how it moves, and Hanoi wakes before sunrise, not gradually. The city does not ease into the day. Shop shutters pull open, charcoal braziers are lit. Bowls of pho are already steaming on low plastic stools before most cities have stirred. Look again at an intersection. What appears chaotic on first glance is something closer to negotiated space. Scooters do not stop for each other so much as they read each other. Speed is adjusted, eye contact is made, small gaps become paths. This is not disorder. It is a practiced urban language built over generations of living very close together on very narrow streets. The old quarter of Hanoi follows a street plan shaped centuries ago by craft guilds, each alley once dedicated to a single trade: silk, paper, tin, bamboo. Those trades have changed, the signage is different. But the density of economic life along each street, the small storefronts, stacked goods, the threshold where home and commerce overlap remains. Morning in Hanoi is not spectacle. It is routine repeated across millions of thresholds. Movement here is not the background to daily life. It is how daily life is organized. This pattern, that movement structures the day rather than interrupts it, is not unique to Hanoi. It runs the length of the country. From flat city streets, the route starts climbing toward a terrain the map does not easily show. But once the road leaves the city, movement changes from choreography into endurance. What happens to a country in motion when the ground begins to rise? Once the road leaves Hanoi, the country changes in a way no map fully prepares you for. The terrain rises, the curves multiply. What looks like a short distance on paper becomes hours of careful movement. In the mountains, a road is not just a line on a map. It is an argument with gravity. The northern highlands stretch toward the borders of China and Laos. In places like Ha Giang and Mutang Chai, the landscape is not a backdrop. It reflects the daily set of conditions in a place, from temperature and wind to cloud cover and rainfall. Altitude, cloud cover, wet season, and the angle of a slope all determine where settlements form, how markets run, and how far people move in a single day. The same country that moves by scooter in the city must move by patience in the highlands. A motorbike climbing a switchback through cloud and mist is a different relationship with movement altogether. Distance here is measured less in kilometres than in bends and gradient. A stretch of road that looks brief on a map might take a full morning to navigate. The terraces that step down these hillsides are often described as beautiful, and they are, but beauty is secondary to function. Each terrace level controls water across a slope, slows runoff, builds soil, extends the growing season. Terraces are not decoration. They are infrastructure built by hand and maintained by season. Farming at this altitude is slow, physical, and relational. Planting, harvesting, and moving produce from field to market all depend on the same patient logic as the roads themselves. Hands carry what wheels cannot reach. In roadside markets at certain altitudes, goods exchanged here are the result of days of work at height and hours of travel to reach a single clearing. The market is both a destination and a reason for the journey. Looking down from a mountain pass, Vietnam's lowland coherence already feels distant. Up here, the country has different rules. Communities have organised themselves around terrain that does not flatten or simplify. The highlands do not sit apart from the rest of Vietnam, they feed into it. The roads that climb through these passes eventually descend. Rivers that begin in mountain mist often end far away, spreading into branching delta channels at the coast. The vertical north and the horizontal south are part of the same system. The connection is just slower, steeper, and harder to see from below. From the heights, Vietnam descends toward a corridor where memory, coast, and construction meet in tight space. Can a country modernize quickly without leaving its older ground behind? Central Vietnam is not simply between north and south. It is where several versions of the country pass through each other. The route south from the highlands passes through a narrow coastal corridor. Mountains push close to the sea. There is barely room for a road. Hue was the imperial capital for more than a century. Its citadel walls still stand beside the Perfume River, and daily life still crosses through them. Bicycles pass under stone gates. Incense drifts across altar spaces that are neither museum nor ruin. Markets line the river's edge. Preservation in Vietnam does not look the same everywhere. Some spaces are inhabited, some are ritualized, some are carefully curated, and some are under pressure from surrounding growth. Hoi An sits 40 kilometers south of Da Nang. Its old quarter survived because later development bypassed it. The port became a heritage destination instead. What visitors see as real in structure but transformed in function. Shops, lanterns, and river crossings now carry both local routine and global attention at once. The question is not whether that tension is good or bad. It is what happens when a place cannot stop moving and cannot stop being remembered at the same time. Da Nang is less than an hour away by road. The contrast is immediate. This is a city negotiating with the present rather than the past. Bridges cross the Han River in multiple directions. Traffic is heavier and faster. New buildings rise along the waterfront. Together, Hue, Hoi An, and Da Nang are doing several things at once, holding memory, performing continuity, and accelerating forward, all within the same narrow band of land. By this point, Vietnam no longer looks like a simple north to south route. It looks like a set of movement systems stacked on top of one another. The deeper pattern here is not the scenery. It is how life adapts to this place, shaping each routine around the limits and demands of the landscape. Each landscape changes the rules of movement, and people build routines inside those rules. In the central corridor, that means sharing limited space with the past. Inland from the coast, the terrain shifts again. The karst hills of Phong Nha mark the edge of a landscape where the roots go underground. But Vietnam's movement is not always visible from the surface. What does the country reveal when the route slips underground or into water? After cities, passes and corridors, water introduces a different kind of route, slower, older and partly hidden. In Vietnam, some of the most important movement happens on rivers and canals, where the roads simply cannot follow. Inland from the central coast, the terrain shifts without announcement, giving way from the shore to a more rugged interior. The hills here are limestone, shaped over hundreds of millions of years, carved through by water working at its own pace. This is karst landscape, not just dramatic scenery, but a system. Caves, rivers, cliffs, and the villages between them are all connected by the same geology. The water finds every weakness in the rock and follows it. Some disappears underground entirely, travelling through cave systems before surfacing again as rivers downstream. Phong Nha Ke Bang, a protected national park in Quang Binh province, holds some of the oldest and largest cave systems in the world. These caves are not only geological records carved into stone, they are routes, linking chambers, passages, and the movement of people through the landscape. Boats have entered these cave rivers for generations, reading darkness, echo and current, the way mountain people read road and slope. At the river's edge, the pace of the working day adjusts to what water permits. Boats are steadied, ropes secured, cargo balanced. The rhythm here is not set by traffic or mountain passes. It is set by depth, current, and the quality of light that enters a cave mouth. What sits beneath this landscape also explains the surface. Water shapes limestone into valleys, towers and channels. The settlements follow those shapes, movement follows them too. Speed and road and elevation answered part of how Vietnam holds together. Water answers another part. And the south, where the land dissolves into 1,000 channels, will answer the rest. Once water becomes the guide, the south begins to make a different kind of sense. How does speed change when a city grows around older routes of trade and water, where modern traffic still follows the paths first shaped by rivers and markets? If Hanoi teaches motion as choreography, Ho Chi Minh City turns motion into acceleration. The map jump is direct. From karst valleys and cave rivers to a city of more than 9 million people, where traffic does not pause and construction does not sleep. The question is not whether the city is modernizing, it is what modern speed still has to work around. Ho Chi Minh City grew quickly, but that growth rose over an older city, where colonial streets and older neighbourhoods still shape the ground beneath it. Beneath the flyovers and glass towers, older market alleys still run their original routes. Vendors set up before sunrise on the same street corners they have occupied for generations. Delivery riders learn alley shortcuts that no navigation app has fully mapped. Infrastructure has expanded dramatically. Roads have been widened. Bridges connect districts that once relied on ferries. Construction cranes mark the skyline at almost every angle. And yet none of this expansion has been simple. The city sits at the edge of a river system. Its streets flood seasonally. Its density means each new road meets an existing neighbourhood, an established market, a canal that predates the concrete. Modernisation here is not replacement, it is negotiation. A glass-fronted building shares a wall with a workshop that repairs motorbike engines. At dawn, a produce market opens beneath the elevated road's approach, with vendors arranging crates of fruit and vegetables under the concrete span. Canal-side houses stand where barges still move slowly past residential windows. The city has not resolved these overlaps. It operates through them. Ho Chi Minh City is not just a population centre, but a vast urban landscape where dense neighbourhoods and constant movement define its scale. It is a node where goods from the delta, the coast and the interior pass through on their way to ports and markets. The movement of people is one layer. The movement of produce, raw materials and goods from farms and factories to markets is another part of that scale. They share the same streets, the same channels, the same morning hours. By late afternoon, the tempo shifts. Markets unload, delivery circuits wind down, and the city finds a quieter register in its alleys. Night softens the surface but does not stop it. Restaurants open where shuttered shop fronts stood 12 hours before. The city reconfigures the same space several times each day, as streets and plazas shift with the changing rhythms of work, trade and daily life. That capacity to hold multiple rhythms at once is what makes it legible as a southern node in the same national system that includes Hanoi's crossings, the mountain passes, hues. Past ancient gates and into the cave rivers of Phong Ha, where dark water winds through vast limestone chambers. Speed is the surface. Underneath, the older structure still carries everything, hidden below the street and still doing the same job. But beyond the city's hard surfaces, Vietnam's motion loosens again into channels, boats and tides. What does national movement look like when paved roads fade into the river-threaded delta? In the delta, movement no longer runs beside the water. It becomes water, through channels, boats and daily life shaped by the tide. South of Ho Chi Minh City, the land dissolves into a fan of channels and rivers carrying the Mekong toward the sea. There are no mountain passes here. Distance is measured in tides and currents, in the time it takes a boat to reach market before morning trade disperses. For millions of Delta residents, the waterway is not scenery, it is the road. Boats carry produce, fuel, building materials, and people between settlements where the river has always been the path of least resistance. Floating markets still operate on these channels, organised not by fixed address but by what is in season and which boats arrive earliest. Here, the delta's rhythm follows the water level and the pull of the tide, not a clock, a ferry schedule, or any fixed timetable. In the northern mountains, movement meant climbing, altitude, effort, bends in the road. Here it is horizontal, patient, timed to flow. The same country, two completely different rules for how life gets from one place to another. What connects them is not the road stretching between them, it is the habit of adaptation, visible in how each place adjusts to its own terrain. Look at the hands working a delta morning, sorting dragon fruit and pomelos, tying rope before the current shifts, steering a laden boat around a bend by feel rather. Here, understanding comes through touch, sound, and movement through the space, more than sight. These are practiced responses to a landscape that demands constant small decisions. In Hanoi, motion was negotiated at intersections. In the mountains, it was earned through altitude. In the central corridor, it moved through preserved gates and new bridges. In Phong Nha, the river vanished underground, slipping beneath the limestone into the cave system. Here, it spreads outward in every direction at once across the surrounding landscape, quiet, purposeful, and unhurried. Vietnam is often remembered through striking images, but images alone can make this fast-moving country feel still. Follow the motion across the image, and a different portrait comes into view in the same frame. The city crossing, the mountain pass, the cave river, the market boat, the hand-tying rope before sunrise, each belongs to a different landscape, but all answer the... That leads to the same question. Standing right in front of the scene, impossible to miss as you take in the view. How do people keep life continuous when the ground beneath their homes keeps changing from season to season? Vietnam's coherence is not found by flattening its contrasts. It is found by watching how each contrast is lived through, carried through, and moved through. The country does not resolve into one tempo. It holds several at once: speed and patience, height and flow, memory and construction, beauty and work. From Hanoi's busy crossings to the Mekong Delta's narrow channels, Vietnam has been moving all along. If motion is how Vietnam holds together, from dense scooter traffic to ferries crossing the river, what does it mean to truly see a country